Welcome, everyone, to the 252nd weekly MLP Drawing School live critique stream. It's December 29th, a little past 6, and we got a small army of people here. Week after Christmas? Yeah. So now
Haha.
everyone's got their new Huons and Wacom and pieces of paper to draw on. So
Shiny. I get
Hopefully.
one piece of paper a year. This is big. It's a big deal.
we
I can
should
see why
create
you
a
don't do
GoFundMe
traditional.
to get her a second piece of paper.
Don't spoil me. I can't. That's just too much. That's too spoily.
Well, as you can hear, starting at the bottom of the list, we got the still Fluffy, but now with slightly more candy stuck to his hair. Fluffy's eye.
Wait, where? Get it out.
We got Alley Claw buried in about a foot and a half of yarn.
Warm and cozy.
There's Pixie Nope, who's enjoying the warm weather.
Enjoying is an overstatement.
Being alive is
hot,
another
muggy
one.
weather absolutely sucks. And we have a zombie, a jolly zombie.
There's also Inky Beaker, who comes from the land of right next to Alley.
Hi.
And
I'm not that
finally,
interesting.
cute pencil case, who might have, snuck in through your wall and stolen, like, possibly your cookies.
Drawing
Okay,
pictures
just
on
put
your
sugar to
drawing
glitter
pad.
and the fluff.
If you find random adorable sketches in your drawing books, you know that you've been visited by a Christmas mouse.
Ho ho ho.
Just curious, Inky, are you in the Aggie?
I believe so.
I think there's somebody
Are
who
you the
isn't.
camel?
I think so, yeah.
Do you see the images?
I see images.
You are here.
Oh god.
Sweet.
I don't know
Alright.
how to do this anymore.
It's fine. You draw pictures over people's stuff and tell them what can be changed, can be corrected, what you think of it. Because that is
So
what
we 8 of us draw a different like face shape and nose shape, and
Yeah. So, as always, if you have any art you'd like to submit, please fire it towards us. You'll see us post the weekly post at some point during the day. If you're looking for us at other times, you can post it to the subreddit, and if it gets no critique, we'll try and hoover it up. If there's too much posted, we will sometimes leave out some, and we'll only do one picture per person per week. If we can. So let's get started on this. The first picture we have is by someone. There it is. Len's Sketchbook. I assume Len drew it, and it's in their sketch. No, it's username Len's Sketchbook. Finally drew my own OC. Info in comments. This is Ren, her cutie mark. Yes, backstory in the thing. No questions, no comments about any issues they had. Hey, Len, we saw in a previous post when someone asked if you have any questions in particular, he said, nope, just give me everything. We like to ask those questions because this is a very stylistic picture, and your delivery of your style seems to be very consistent and very good. We just want to know what your thoughts on your own on your picture is, what sort of issues you're running into to sort of help deliver a more personalized critique. Because we can just blindly shoot off, hey, I don't like these wings, and hey, let's change the legs. But you might be like, well, this is actually how I like my legs. This is what I've decided for X, Y, and Z reason. So getting into those sort of details is very useful for anyone trying to critique your picture.
Mm-hmm.
What we really like is, hey, I was drawing this picture, and I'm not quite sure if I delivered the main right, or how do I work on the shadowing, or how do I place them outside of a white void?
Yeah,
Those types of-
knowing basically what you think looks right and what you think looks wrong or might need some work helps us deliver you critique, which is useful. Yeah.
Hmm. Otherwise,
I
you're just
like,
gonna get like all the opinions, and you don't even they're not right or wrong or anything. It's just opinions of randomness.
and there's nothing to focus any of it.
Yeah.
I like this, the pose and all that sort of stuff. It's a really sort of interesting kind of a pose, having this like boom sort of thing.
Very nice and
This
flowy.
this area is really big compared to this area, which is a bit smaller. And I tend to have it be like a bit opposite, kind of maybe a little bit, or like something. I don't know. Or have it like, yeah. Yeah, she's a big horse though.
Big horse. Yep.
I I don't mind the head being so small. I don't know why. It just feels like it just
Hmm.
feels like with the style, like it's so abstracty in kind of the form, very flowy and whatnot. I'm trying to think. I don't and anatomy wise, I think moving the wing might be helpful because right now the wing is like towards the center, but you want it more like up close to here. You get a different color.
Shoulder blades.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking that.
Because your wings are pretty. I like the style of your wings. It's just moving them up a bit. And I know sometimes that blocks like that might go in front of the face, or you can't have as much flowy hair as you'd like. But yeah, I think that'll help balance the pony a little bit too, because it's like it feels because of how your butt is, it feels like it's more on the butt than on the back, even with this style. And if that's your stylistic choice, that's why we like to ask these questions, because I have no idea if this is you chose to put it there or not. Um, And even if this is stylized, I would watch out being consistent with your style. Like your legs here in the front, they're two very different styles of how you approach them. They also have like very different joints going on.
Hmm.
Dirt, dirt, dirt. Where this one, like you're missing like the joint here, the shoulder joint. You don't even have to have it stick out as much as I have it here, but the leg just kind of burp right out, and I'm not sure where, like, as far as I can see, the limbs are like that, and there's nothing between these two that match up lengthwise with the limb lengths.
Yeah, like I can see I can see it working out sort of as is if there's that like sort of tilt in the body, but like this side is sort of raised up and that sort of stuff. But
Mhm.
I'd expect to see like a little bit more of like a bump from sort of the top of the thing there, like to indicate that, or some maybe contoury stuff, like maybe some like bit of neck jewelry or whatever to sort of indicate that the middle of the thing is like leaning down this way or something like that.
Yeah, because you already have, like, if this is the center line of the neck, you already have the body twisting like that.
Yeah, actually,
So
that's
if
a
you have
pretty
some
ferocious twist.
something, and you might even show a little bit more of the chest on this side with that big of a twist, so kind of have this kind of like V shape on the chest, and then the arm would be here. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, there's always going to be these sorts of things when you've got a really pretty extreme pose going on.
Extreme pose with extreme proportions. It
Mm.
can be so many things.
I do like this back leg, having making this sort of shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not. I without more questions. It's really good. Your line work's nice. I like the gradients you have going on, and the shading's pretty solid to me. It works at least. I don't have any nitpicky things to say about it without more questions, basically. Um, but yeah, it's really nice. Really good flow, if anything. Yeah, got lots of like I feel that energy wishing through.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next picture then. Happy birthday!
Yeah, nice.
Birthday!
This is by Guiding Light Pony. My last post for the year, as well as my last vectored piece. I'm switching from Inkscape to Krita after this. I made a little
Heck
birthday
yeah.
gift for my friend of mine. As always, criticism welcome. Did you know you can use both to an advantage? Dun dun
Mm.
dun.
You can only have one membership card at a time. That's no,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You really you can use any programs you want. There's no
Mhm. I couldn't get into Inkscape, but for some people, yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Some people operate in strict
Same for
shifts.
me with Krita and Sai, and pretty much most things that aren't Clip Studio Paint.
I have used Inkscape. Well, I think I was using. I was using Cura. No, not Cura. Corel Draw, because it's basically
Mhm.
Inkscape but with paid purchasing because you hate yourself
It's
for
like
it.
Inkscape, but not free.
Yeah, no, it's got a better UI for sure, but it's just
Yeah,
not
yeah, no.
free. I was using that to do some backgrounds and stuff, and that was a major advantage for just, hey, I need to build up these
Mhm.
backgrounds that are actually straight and actually, flowing together, where they all have a vanishing point and all that already set up, and it's just like, okay, a few clicks and here it goes. And then you bring that over to a raster program and you draw over
Mm.
it to give the shading in that, and
I
it
need to
works well.
try. I think I tried Corel Draw there was like a Humble Bundle a while back, and I got like a ton of Corel products. I need to actually try some of them.
I would suggest mixing, matching, making stuff. Find what works for
Mm.
you.
Hmm.
So
I
the
was gonna,
horse,
gonna do some sketching, but
I imagine
it's
the
stuff.
entire image is like, if we're yeah, if we're looking at the ground like this, the head is tilted up like this. I'm horse. Yeah, and they're looking upwards to something up in the sky.
It's what seems to be happening. The sort of the placement of like the ears and hair and everything, and the face and the string from the party hat seem to all imply where they're looking upwards. I was going to do some sketching on it, and I saw Ali had started sketching on it. That would
So
be.
then I think the weird part, like the horse overall, that the face is almost there for that. I find it odd that the balloons have tilted to like making the wall flat to them, as opposed to you looking up with the balloons. And this is going to be really annoying to actually pull this off, because you got to do the little butts or whatever we call the tails that come out of them.
Balloon butts.
Yeah, balloon butts. But it is just a matter of putting their little pigtails further into the balloon body. And luckily, because you're doing vectoring, you can just, figure one out, plop it down, copy paste.
Yeah.
Hmm. When you're looking up at this kind of an angle, this sort of area underneath the chin is kind of super important. And if you
Yeah.
look at people with their heads raised up, you'll see the same kind of thing where you'll have this sort of like a shape, or if it's off to the side, you'll see like boom, and then all of the rest of the face will be made off of that and all that kind of stuff. And I think getting the head shape right in this kind of pose is just like really difficult and annoying, and it'll just take practice and looking at how other people do it and that sort of stuff.
References.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my key to anything. Basically, if you ever have an issue with anatomy, anything whatsoever, references will always have your answer, because it's sometimes it's a matter of you'll look at a piece and you're like, I don't know how to draw it. Well, it's like, take the piece you're looking at, right, and draw on top of it. Break that down. Figure out why your anatomy is not working and why that one looks right to you, why that one feels good, why that one, XYZ, whatever reason why you want to use that piece as a reference. And learn from it, pick from it, break it down, figure it out, because a lot of everyone has the capability to learn anatomy and to figure out anatomy. You may not be able to draw it the first time out, flat go, whatever. Anatomy takes time to learn, but you have the ability to problem solve that. All this is problem solving. You don't need to go in blind and guess and keep getting it wrong, sort of a situation.
It's all just
As you,
learning and
as you,
experimenting different things.
yeah, and as you do stuff, you'll also learn like tips and tricks and all that. Like if you have a face that you're looking at from this kind of an angle, the mouth by default, like a straight mouth with sort of no emotion, is like that. And so if you're doing like a smile, the smile won't go like that normally. Smile will be something like
Yeah.
boom, tipped up at the edges, but like in the middle, you're still going to have that sort of natural shape because that's kind of the angle of everything. You split it up, like this plane is facing fairly forward, plane is facing right, this plane is facing that way. But like it just gets more and more sort of extreme the more that you sort of tilt up. And then things start to compress. We've got like these sorts of lines that also sort of have to go that way because they're actually like coming out of the face and all that sort of stuff. A lot of this is also things you can pick up looking at people do 3D sculpting of human heads, because normally what they'll do is as they're sculpting, they will come down specifically to this kind of a pose. They'll start off doing the front of the head and doing some stuff there and all that sort of thing, and then they'll tilt it up, and then you'll see it very specifically from this sort of an angle that they're very sure that like everything works from this direction because it's a really tough thing to get, but like so that might be helpful, maybe, hopefully.
All right. We ready to move on to our next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Ali, that drawing is too good.
No, you're too good. I'm even still fiddling with this. Like, I wouldn't even say this is 100% correct. Like, my cheeks are really puffy. All I'm saying is, like, it's possible. Just keep playing at it. If it's not,
Yeah.
if at first you don't succeed, try again.
And references are good.
Yes, references. So good. See, the only reason I learned about like this little like under the neck V was from just staring and eating references. Like, why does that bottom part always look so bad when I draw it? Why does it always look blah blah blah? And I'm like, oh, there's like a secret V. There's like a platform. It's flat there. That's why.
Yeah, I had to reference that as well. It's not something that you can do that you normally just figure out on your own. I definitely had to look up a lot of like humans and ponies and other creatures, like looking up in like anime style and cartoon styles to like figure it out.
It really clicked with me when I looked at the skull. Like, if you look at the skull, there's literally like this empty pocket that's a V that's flat. That like
the jaw. I agree with something Pixie said. Like, art is about learning tips and tricks. Like, it's not like in a video game where you have like an experience bar that gradually goes up. Well, there sort of is like an underlying level of comfort that goes up as you draw. You just gain the ability to understand things a bit better. But art mostly is about just having a toolbox of thousands of little tips and tricks. Just like how to draw a hand is just like a ton of different little tricks as to like different parts of the fingers and the overall shape of the hand and how things connect and how things move. It's all just a lot of little different mini lessons. So it's all about just taking your time to pick up those little mini lessons. And sometimes it takes referencing, sometimes it takes practice, sometimes it takes everything. But it's fun.
You'll draw a hand like wrong 1,000 times, and you'll be like,
"Oh yes, absolutely."
Oh, if I put this line specifically right here, then it looks more correct. Yay! And then you'll do that for like 1,000 times, and then you'll be like, oh no, that actually looks awful.
I'm starting to actually get kind of confident with hands. But tangent. I really hate it whenever I put a pose of like a character who's sort of in like a shy pose with their or like a polite pose with their hands behind their backs, or their hands are like falling behind a poofy skirt or something, just because the hands are held down at the sides and like their clothes are too big, or some any picture where the hands are covered up. I will always get comments like, "And here's an example of how to avoid drawing the hands." It's like I've drawn hands so many times. I've shown that I know how to draw hands. I just wanted to do this pose.
All right,
Yeah, keep at it.
Yeah, it's super
onwards.
cute. Good luck with your new Krita exploration.
All right, our next picture is by user deleted from planet.
It's always so funny to me.
Their picture was first drawing I made with colored pencils, so I did go ahead and post the colored one. I ran out of space because I didn't pay attention to the post, so it's just over top of the other one.
It's all good.
It's like they're sort of peering past the picture.
I want to boop the snoot. He's so boop. Boop.
All right, they have no comments. Yeah, no comments. But hey, let's talk about horse here. Dem ears. I gotta know, is this a style you're going for? Because I haven't seen your pictures before have ears quite this large. This is nearing parachute levels. And that's fine if that's your goal, but you removed the fuzz that you had in your previous ones and made them larger. Just wondering if this is something you're going for or something
Mm-hmm.
that has just sort of crept its way in due to one reason or another.
I don't mind big ears,
I like big ears and I kind of.
but they need to be bigger. Big.
My big question is, I'm fine with the size, but it definitely feels much more maybe cat-like, not even cat-like. It's rounder, almost like maybe a big cat, or a
I'm thinking like
bear.
maybe panda or something. Panda or
Panda,
bear.
yeah, or koala. No, not koala. Yeah. So that would just be my question if you're going for more of that rounded ear shape. Otherwise, I think giving it while the MLP ponies have like a more rounded bump, they still have more of a point. It's more tall than wide. You can still have wide pony ears. Like I see people do it all the time. They're more like wolf inspired and they still look fine and dandy. I mean, it's a cartoon horse. Do whatever you want to it. But yeah, just be something to watch out for. And the placement, because of how it comes down on it's almost down to the jawline where you have the ear connection. That's what also makes me think like a different mammal, just because horse ears tend to be at the top of the head.
So
I
I'm
think-
looking at the coloring consistency, and this is a thing that is going to bother you as you go look at other people's pencil crayon works. Depending on the quality and the make of the pencil crayon, it does change the quality of how it lays down color and the consistency of like how it lays down. So that little airiness between all the color, that little bit whatever's going on there, that's either an indication of the paper wasn't quite right for it, or the pencil crayon itself isn't soft enough to lay down a consistent line. So there are three major types of pencil crayons. To backtrack on this one, you have hard, regular, soft. Soft are the best for laying down a whole lot of color and making it like creamy and consistent and getting that what the heck sort of marker like Copic style consistency of color where you can actively blend it together. Hard ones are great if you're trying to do like the outlines of something that is very wants to be very dense, very yeah, like outlines. Outlines is what I usually use them for, and then the regulars I use to fill. But even them are often softer than your standard Crayola ones. You end up going towards the like Prismacolors and the there's a bunch of Chinese off-brand ones where they're the same idea of a slightly softer a softer make. Instead of using wax as the main binder, they're using compression force. because it lets it deposit more consistently. And that's my note here. Might want to change up your paper because some different papers with a softer texture. Sorry, like a hard. I think it's
Juiciness.
cold rolled. I think is usually what you'll get that with is the smooth texture to it. It will help hide a lot of that airiness between it. Unfortunately, there is a sort of barrier to getting the results you want if that's what you're looking for. If you're just looking to put down color and it doesn't matter what you're going for, then just regular pencil crayons work great. They do exactly as the box says, and you can even blend them. You go ahead and grab your finger, grab a few pencil crayons, and start rubbing. Works great. That's my 2 cents on
Um,
that.
I was about to suggest there's several ways. If you go on YouTube, you could probably just Google like how to blend color pencils, how to layer color pencils, how to whatever exploit. There's so many good YouTube videos about it. But if you want to look at specific like starter blending stuff, of course there's layering, which is just drawing over a few times, but there's things you can Google like burnishing. Burnishing's a big word used in colored pencils a lot. So don't be afraid to like look into that kind of stuff, see how other artists do it, look at techniques, see how it's just as much as learning a tool as even digital art. So if there's things you want to improve, if you want your saturation of color better, brighter, whatever, blending more naturally, Google that kind of stuff. Look up the YouTube videos, and do like little rundowns, little practices. Like a lot of the blending, I remember when I was looking into it like a while ago, like so long ago. Um, it was really helpful to just practice it because it's just like learning to draw anything else. You have to practice how to do the technique or whatever, and you can just do it on squares. It doesn't have to be a full piece of art to practice every time. Just be like coloring in a square. It's good fun. It's very relaxing.
I don't mind how the coloring looks. I think the coloring looks alright. With ears, because I think most of the rest of the piece looks pretty good. This sort of jawline sort of thing is always a bit tough to sort of get, and it's good to pay attention to sort of the width of the neck to make sure it sort of stays fairly consistent, and that can help sort of just help everything feel a little bit more physically based and all that kind of thing. But when it comes to ears, let me erase this. I tend to draw my ears. Well, whenever I'm drawing ears, I'll start off with sort of, marking out sort of the side of the head so that I can, position the muzzle and the eyes and all that sort of stuff without encroaching on the side of the head space. And then I'll just draw like a very simple sort of representation of where the ears should go. This sort of big main bit of the ear. Have this sort of big main bit, and then the poofy bit at the back. You got this sort of in most of my ears. You have this sort of big shape, and then this like more just flapper, skinny sort of stuff.
There's so many different ways to do ears. It's fun to experiment.
It's good to when you're like looking at how other people draw ears and referencing them and that sort of stuff. It's usually good to look at how sort of the tips of their ears work, whether they're like, whether they do something a shape like this, or whether it's like something like that, or whether they do, they come forward with it or something like that. That's usually something to look out for. And then when you're looking at sort of angles of ears, that's when like looking at this specific area, which I'm not sure how to call it, but it's like the area which is sort of folding over the top. Like it tucks in here. and then this area is like folding sort of from this side over to that side, and this connects directly into the rest of the head, like no gaps really. Where you position this is super important, because if it's like on here, the ear is facing sort of that kind of a way, and it's, you know, fairly forward. But if you have the ear sort of facing, how do I want to do this? If I want to have the ear sort of facing more down, that will be sort of on completely the opposite side of the ear and all that sort of stuff, and that sort of indicates that the ear's facing down that way. So that's something to like keep an eye out for when you're like drawing ears in different angles and different directions and that sort of stuff. And it just comes with time, trying stuff out and experimenting, because you're like trying to draw a 2D representation of some 3D form that's pretty difficult to get. Like in terms of like most of the pony, the head shape is like a sphere, the neck is like a cylinder, the ear is like just a weird combination of stuff that overlaps and bulges in different places and all this sort of stuff. So don't stress if it takes a while to get that looking right, because it definitely takes a while.
So one thing that I've learned over time doing not just pony but other animals, is that a lot of people tend to draw ears too low. So on humans, ear holes are basically on the side of your head, right? But on basically every single other animal, at least mammals, they're up closer to the top. So I think that's kind of what's going on here too, because it looks like the ear's focused a little more on the side. So if you move the ear up even just a little bit, like kind of this is where the center of the ear is. If you move it kind of maybe even here and like use that as a reference point, you'll move everything up and then it'll look a little bit more natural as well.
Yeah, especially with the rotation of the head you have going on. If I were to cut it in half this way, the cylinder, your ear is like way below the center. So that's something good to keep in mind. While this ear might work, your positioning of the ear might work if the head was like, you know, flat, but it's way tilted. So that's why I think it just clicked to me. That's why it feels so far down for me, is because you already have the head tilted away from the viewer. So the ear is like farther away from us. And it's still like if as if the head is like center, like flat.
All right, shall we move on to our next picture?
Yeah, good
Yeah.
drawing.
Yeah, super cute.
I'm excited to see some more stuff.
And hopefully someone hits Control Z from you so you can get back onto the planet.
Or just draw from the moon.
All
No
right.
extra.
The next picture up is by Eve0001. I wanted to draw a cozy Christmas scene, so I did. Any pointers? I was particularly unsure about the perspective of the horn, windows, and presents.
This is so cute. You have drawn such a cute picture. You should be proud.
I believe, if I remember correctly, reading in the post, they mentioned that this dot up here is what they use to make the perspective. My only thing I'll touch on with that is this is a really, really high perspective. If you're looking, say, at a picture of outdoor life, you see the horizon line, right? You see the sky where the sky meets the ground if you're standing in, like, you know, a big grassy field. And usually it sits more like, you know, here. Wow, it's a arc. It sits a bit lower, right? And that's the line you want to get your dot on if you want like a not extreme angle shot. That's a pretty natural horizon line. And of course it can change. It can be whatever you want it to be, But I'm saying like if it's just like a cozy room shot, unless you're like getting a picture from like the corner of the ceiling down onto the floor and you want to see mostly floor, um, I would just be careful. Like the horizon line you want to work with to get perspective. You want like coming out like this instead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty much the horizon line is sort of where the camera is, pretty much. So like if the horizon line is up here, your camera is like at the top of the room, and it's going to be pretty difficult. It's going to be pretty distorted.
It's kind of impersonal as
outside of
well.
sort of
If you want a
this.
cozy picture, you want it to be like more down, like you're right in front of the pony. You know, composition and cropping can do a lot for a piece like this.
Whereas if the horizon is sort of down here, most of this area is going to be like not distorted, and only like sort of up here will be like pretty distorted because of the perspective sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But perspective is like also really difficult, so don't stress too much if it takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn for years in school how perspective worked properly,
Yeah.
and I still get
It
it
can
wrong.
be tricky.
That's one that has like classes. Like you know how there's like algebra 1 and algebra 2. There's definitely not. You don't just take out like perspective is its own course and you
Mm.
take multiples of it. It's
Mhm.
not something that's like, "Oh, it's just perspective," you know. Like, "Oh, it's just drawing an ear." It's a lot. There's a lot to it and there's a lot of information to it. So, I just got to say kudos. Kudos for working in perspective. Like
Yeah.
seriously, it's scary,
Yeah.
but you did it. You did it. That was the first step, right?
With
Yeah.
with the horn
Actually, let me just
sort
change
of thing,
this.
something that's really useful to like think about is that the head shape is a ball. The head is a ball,
Mm-hmm.
and then because the head is a ball, you've got sort of all of these different contour lines going around it. Like you can draw lines almost anywhere on the ball that sort of indicate the shape of it and all that sort of stuff. And when you're like drawing a feature like a horn or even like a muzzle, what you want to do is you want to draw sort of you want to find out kind of where those features are. Like let's say the muzzle is sort of around about here. The center of the ball is sort of around about here, and the muzzle will sort of go out from the center through that point. And so the muzzle might sort of end up something like this. And the horn, let's say the horn is like somewhere up here. You'll have a similar kind of thing, like center through there. And so the horn will end up sort of something like up here. And then sort of as you do, you'll like learn how the base of the horn sort of connects to the head and get a bit of an innate sense of that and all that sort of thing. But that can be like some really useful stuff for working out where the horn is positioned and what sort of general shape it should make and all that sort of stuff. That's sort of what I think about when I'm drawing a horn. Very basic shapes.
Yeah. And it's really fun and easy to practice. Like to figure out a crazy angle of a horn, it's pretty much, oh, you draw your circle. However, whatever angle, whatever however squished it is or flat on, you can draw a dot and boom, you got yourself a little cone. And it's facing whatever direction. And it definitely is like learning how to read 3D space. Like if I want something, I don't know, going up that way. It's like, okay, so the dot's there. Look at that, I got a party hat. Just it's just that. It's as simple as those oh my gosh. Are there gonna be multiple horns coming out of that pony's head?
There can
I'm
be
scared.
for
I'm
the
not
low
sure.
price of digital ink.
I now want like a mace that's a pony's head, but just all the spikes are the horns.
That exists.
My goodness gracious! Why have you given us this image in our heads, Ali?
So I do horns slightly differently because I like a bit more of a framework in my life on them. I bisect the heads with lines for almost all my heads just to sort of figure out where things are placed to make
See,
sure
I
it's
did something
facing.
like that at the beginning as well.
Um,
It helps.
So cutting it or taking a line right from the center top of the head and driving it right to the bottom center of the head circle. If I take that line, meet it with the line that I do for the cross to define where the face elements sit, I can do 45 off that, follow it through the skull, and draw the rest of the little horn for that. And then it guarantees it's always on the right angle, always at the right location, no matter what angle my head is, because everything else is based off those same lines. That's the way I do it.
Hell
A
yeah,
lot of
fancy mathematics.
def
Heck
fancy.
yeah.
Let me put on my
Unicorn maths.
glasses. Nerd.
Nerd.
No, but
There's
everyone
there's
does it a
like
different way.
yeah, it's all finding whatever way works out best for you, and
Huh.
then doing that. I really like methods that sort of just where I can just like follow two lines and be like, okay, that's good.
Yeah. For me, like I'll have the circle. Where are we not drawing? Okay. I'll have the circle and like I'll do like the center of the head. As I'm drawing the face or whatever, and like it's pretty easy for me to put. Oh, that's so hard to see. It's pretty easy for me to put a circle on the head that looks like it makes sense. And like if this pony just had like a sphere on the center of the head, like I could easily imagine where that circle would be based. 'Cause it's just a flat thing, and I can understand like the perspectives of like the circle, as it were. Uh, and then from that circle, it's just pretty easy peasy to do a little horn. Though it helps with me that when I do my ponies, they typically have like sort of short, stubby, round horns because I think it's cute. Yeah, like this. These are how I draw my horns. It's a lot easier to get it more accurate when you do it like this. But that's just my style anyway.
Actually, back to the horizon line. Something that's pretty interesting to think about as well is the horizon line is the point where you are looking straight on at whatever. Everything above the horizon line is stuff that you're looking up at. Everything below the horizon line is stuff that you're looking down at.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I put the horizon line somewhere like here, we'll see this star thing. We'll see sort of the base of it making more of this kind of a shape because we're looking up at it, and so we'll see this side of the circle and all that sort of stuff. And then we're looking sort of down on the pony.
Don't look down
And
on
so
the
that's-
pony.
That's what you need to do. Yeah, I find that a really interesting sort of a yeah, like that. I find that sort of a really interesting sort of measure to keep in mind as I'm drawing, because then I can use that when I'm like constructing my sort of shapes
Mm-hmm.
and be like, oh, I'll see the underside of most of the stuff up here, and I'll see the top side of most of the stuff down here.
Hmm. And what I will say is, with the perspective line you gave yourself, you followed it very nicely. Like everything has you have like nice showings on the window frames here, and it's
Yeah.
like equally matched on each side, and you got the top of the fireplace and the top of the gifts, and so like you have that understanding. And I just think if you move it down, it's good to keep in mind that it switches once you cross the line. It switches. It gets
I think
insane.
a lot of the perspective books which I've looked at and a lot of the guides for perspective-y sort of drawings suggest that around sort of the vanishing points, the main sort of positions that you sort of base all your stuff on if you're doing 2-point perspective, whatever, or like the main point if you're doing sort of a more of a 1-point perspective, which this is, you've got, they normally say, I think it's like 30 degrees around about of space, and everything in there is relatively undistorted, and everything outside of that gets distorted enough that you probably don't want to be drawing outside of that range. And that's sort of a really interesting sort of point as well.
We are getting into a lot of like more complex and advanced sort of art studies stuff here from art
Yeah,
courses and
this
things. Probably giving you enough to think about at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just chucking everything at you. So don't stress. Looks good.
Hmm.
Good drawing. Keep on drawing and keep on sending us stuff because it's
What I
really
do want to
interesting to see.
stress,
Hmm?
I just no, I was just going back. Sorry, I cut out, so I didn't know you all were talking.
Oh, good.
I just do want to stress the fact that you tried to the perspective and you pushed it so far and it came out the way it did. This is really good. Like, I don't want you to think that this was a failure at all or anything like that. Like, the fact you pushed for that perspective and you followed that perspective and you tried perspective is like amazing. It
Mhm.
gets better the more you do it, but the fact that you did it, it's like, again, I will say, is so good.
Let me draw a little gold star sticker thing here.
I love it.
All right, shall we move on to our last picture?
Sure.
Yeah.
I keep like drawing on the wrong layer because Aki doesn't let me switch layers with my tablet. Is that just me or is it?
Just
I have to use my mouse to switch
I
layers.
cannot
It's
use
weird.
other layers. 'Cause
I just
Hmm.
tend to use one layer.
I also couldn't close. I also couldn't close the chat when I accidentally opened it. I had to use my mouse for that as well.
I always end up just making a new layer for if I want different things. Because after once, if someone clicks on it, you can't take it over. It's theirs now.
Yeah, I made a layer to do some like white soft fade under scrubbing of my stuff, and then I tried to switch back to my actual drawing layer, and then I didn't switch. So.
So this last picture is by Wala Willon Sama. Waylon Sama. Sure. My main OC will become the future Nightmare Bat Bunny.
He's a
This
cutie booty.
this picture is really good and really nice, and you know a lot about art, and so it'd be interesting to see your thoughts, to hear your thoughts about what you think you like about your style and what you don't like and all that sort of stuff. Next time,
Hmm.
give us more direction because especially
It's
when
super
we get like a
lovely.
picture like this, yeah, especially when we get like a picture like this from an artist who really knows what they're doing, it gets a bit tougher to sort of guess what kind of feedback you're after and what will be most
Yeah.
helpful to you. All this, the texture of all this, I love
Oh my gosh,
all of
yes, the
this.
grass in the background, like how the things are layered too, it just like fits so nicely.
And
How
these
soft the
eyes,
face looks,
cool.
and like the shade they've got sort of going, like they've got like the gradient fade going over everything. Very nice. Like the leaves blowing as well.
This is a good
I
example.
will say the leaves are implying to me that there's a lot of like wind blowing past them right now, but we're not really seeing that on the character. Like maybe you could sort of interpret it from these strokes here, going sort of that way. But really, I think the fringe, maybe not exactly as I'm drawing it, but the fringe would be sort of blowing a bit more this way, and the tail would sort of be sort of blowing a bit more, just to illustrate there's a wind blowing. If that's what you were going for, maybe it's not, but.
There's some weird swirly kind of wind. I really like this section of hair because
Mhm.
it's really dynamic and imparting this similar kind of like a feeling to the rest of the hair would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with whoever drew the little red mark here. Just move the wing up just a little more to that shoulder area. 'Cause right now it's like in the center of the pony.
I guess I can't do that. So I have noticed that the all the grass is the same height, same thickness, same everything. We, as things go further away from you, they should be shrinking. I would just go ahead and take whatever brush you're using or whatever method you're using. It looks like a brush because they're very consistent in the way they flick. I would just shrink it down as you go further back to give the impression of objects in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the
I think I
flowers.
actually used that brush.
Yeah.
I when I'm doing that sort of stuff, as I go further back, that's when I get into like the more of the bigger sort of bushes and that kind of stuff. Because it just gets really hard to express these tiny little bits of grass when you get so far back. Because like in real life, you probably I probably wouldn't be focused enough to even see those. You just see sort of the big, bold shapes of and stuff that are in the background.
I think this is gonna be really nitpicky, and I apologize if it's frustrating to hear anything or if you just didn't really. Anyway, be careful of like when you have like if you're coloring in or sketching or whatnot. Be careful of the line getting outside a bit. Sometimes it can look really cool, but sometimes when it's like you're having a character in a piece, having that color seep out the line kind of breaks its connection with the ground it's standing on. So if there's some way you can make those darker, even if you shade that color to be darker to have that connection point with the ground, because right now it just kind of feels like, oh, this is pasted on top of the ground, or what have you, instead of having that. And again, super nitpicky. This is because I'm like zooming in and looking at stuff. Yeah, just maybe clean that up or give it a different shade, or you can even like make the outlines darker. I know I have like a bright pen right now, so it's not helping. But yeah.
If you're doing this kind of thing for to be sort of a rim light kind of effect, which I get the feeling that this might right here it is a bit of a rim lighty sort of thing and done for that sort of purpose. If you're doing that kind of thing, you just need to be like a bit consistent with direction. Like this sort of warmer tone coming from this sort of direction-y kind of thing. You can have that sort of, around a few of these different sort of areas. But up here, specifically like here and around here,
Even like under here on the hooves and
the rim lighty sort of stuff would take on a bit of a different flavor, a bit of a different tone, and that sort of stuff. And that'll help sort of make it look a little bit more connected to your backdrop and that sort of thing. But it is a bit nitpicky. Geez, Ali, why would you do
I
this?
know. Listen, when we're presented such good art with no questions, I have no choice. I have to dig in.
Yeah, good point actually.
So kind of going along with it, going along with what you guys were saying about, making sure everything's connected to the picture and stuff. One thing that helps bring the character into a piece or even just an object in general is kind of what's it called? Bounce lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, if you don't know what bounce lighting is, it's basically the environment reflects light from your light source.
Mhm.
Everything reflects light except for like Vanta Black or whatever the hell it's called.
It's ambient lighting, but bounce lighting sort of describes what it is a bit more.
Yeah. So like if you have this hoof against the ground, it's not just all the same color as your pony. It's gonna have a little bit of coming, not as extreme right now, but it's gonna catch some of that light and it's gonna blend into the color of the character, and that kind of attaches the character to the world itself. It's a way to add that extra little bit, going in.
I like it because it does help like boost because it can work in shadows. Like usually, from what I remember, bounce lighting can hit your shadow spots. It can get those spots you don't think will get light, and your shadows will be influenced with that little bit of color, right? And plus, like Inky was saying, it really does help tie the object, the character into that background. It's a part of it, like if you're sitting in grass in broad sunlight, you're gonna see a little green. Like if you have your arm against that grass, you're gonna see a little green there. And it
Yes.
it's really nice looking.
I have like bright green walls. They're all covered up by like posters and pictures and stuff now. But like once upon a time, whenever the sun would shine into my room in the right sort of way, it would light up the entire hallway green if I had my door open. I haven't experimented much with like the characters sitting on purple thing. There's purple light sort of reflected on them very much. I would like to have a chance to, but I have done this sort of thing sort of briefly, like ages and ages ago, drawing snakes. I would just do like the soft shading on them, and then I would do like a little bit of sort of like a lighter patch on the very far side, just because it makes the shiny things look shinier. But so I've experimented a little bit with ambient light, but yeah, what you guys said is the truth.
Yeah, and something which can go along with that, especially maybe not quite so much for this piece specifically, but for pictures that have sort of fairly big lights sort of around these kinds of areas. Is subsurface scattering. Basically, like
Oh,
four
months.
Oh
bits,
boy.
yeah, four bits of like flesh that are pretty thin. You're gonna see some of the underlying color of what's underneath the skin. So the bloody
I've heard
blood
people
sort of
talk
stuff.
about this term in like 3D modeling when I'm looking at like game mods and stuff.
But
So-
it's pretty simple. You'll just have like sorts of red bits of like red tinges around the place. And if you look at like I think honestly the best place to sort of learn about this kind of thing, for me at least, was looking at people who make 3D renders and sort of listen to them talking about subsurface scattering, and that's like really useful for me. But it can be something to keep in mind, not necessary for a piece like this. But yeah. I don't know, just something random because we're talking about
Something
light.
that I mean, if they wanted to play around with it, bat wings are really thin, so that'd be a place to try it
Oh,
out at least.
yeah.
That'd be a place to try it out.
I can. Why can I hear Inky twice?
Oh, 'cause me.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It
Her
just suddenly
microphone
got
very
really
sensitive.
loud.
But it's a very delay there. It's like a few seconds of delay.
Oh yeah, Allie's mic keeps like delaying a few seconds.
Weird.
Internet. It's the internet.
Oh no.
My computer always has issues. Fine. No, but
Alright.
yeah. The bad wings. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
a
can't.
lot of this stuff is really subtle, but it sort of demonstrates a fairly strong sort of underlying understanding of how light works and all that sort of stuff. And it's stuff that takes ages to understand and takes ages to sort of implement into your piece and all that sort of stuff. But it's useful.
Does anyone else has any art they'd like to submit to us? Any other questions they'd like to ask? Now is your last chance before you lose us for a week. So going once. Going twice. Sold to the lowest bidder. All right. Well, with that, we'd like to call it a day. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Oh, bye.
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 We did it.